All right, if we could start with you just telling us who you are, when you were born, that would be a good start.
Yeah, my birthday was it was 1/5/32, or the January the 5th, 1932. That's when I was born.
Great.
And my name is Susan Boss, but it was Bus.
Bus. Okay.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of teasing. We had one lady in church, her name went from herd to bird. So we sort of said,
Yes.
no, we're not the only ones.
No, no.
But because of the names, when my husband died, the death certificate, now I'm trying to think which one did they, I think they had his father's name wrong. So I had to get another death certificate. And I was supposed to send 2 of those every time I had to send one out.
Well, they're so close, so it wasn't much of a change there. Let's see. So have you lived in Cuyahoga Falls your whole life?
No, the first 5 years I understand I lived in Akron because my parents said they lost several houses. It was during the Depression.
Yes.
But I don't remember any of those. The only address I remember was Clearview, I believe it was called. Okay. And then we moved to Cuyahoga Falls. And then the first couple of years after I was married, my husband and I lived in Norton.
Okay.
On a little house that was on his parents' property. And then we moved back to the falls.
So you lived in this general vicinity your whole life, though?
Absolutely,
Greater, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And how many siblings did you have, and what order were you in?
I'm in the middle.
Okay.
My sister is only my half-sister.
Okay.
She's 8 years older than me, and my brother was 1 year younger than me, and that's all there were.
Great. What would you say your earliest memory is?
Oh, boy.
Your early childhood memory?
Well, you remember things, but you don't know if that's because somebody told you that.
Right, right.
I remember my brother and I used to run up the stairs holding hands once in a while. Once in a while we'd fight too.
Yes.
I can't specifically say anything I can remember.
What did your father do for a living?
He worked at B.F. Goodrich, and he was an elevator repairman.
Oh, very cool.
And then as he got older, trying to think, he worked in an A&P, which there are none around here anymore. He worked, I think my uncle was the manager, and my father started in, but he eventually got to be an assistant manager of an A&P.
Very cool.
So,
what would you say, do you have a fondest memory of your father?
Oh, I have a lot of great memories.
Good.
We used to go, because my brother and my mother didn't enjoy it, we used to go to the soapbox derbies.
Oh, yeah.
It was very hot.
Yes.
That's why they didn't like it. But we used to go every year for that. And I'm trying to think what all my brother and my father, that was very nice.
Well, that's special. You had one-on-one time with Dad.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Can I just step in really quick? I just a question came to mind in terms of really stretching your memory back. What is the oldest living relative that you knew? Like that when you were young was still living?
Well, my grandparents were still living. I don't think there were anybody older than that. All 4 of my grandparents were living when I was born.
Wow.
And my grandparents came from Czechoslovakia. They both came over when they were young. And they got married after they were here. And my other grandparents go back to at least Brimfield. I know my one grandparent has relatives buried in the Brimfield cemetery.
Now, is that your dad's parents or your mom's parents?
That was my mom's.
From Brimfield, and your
No,
dad's?
that was my dad's. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Dad's was from Brimfield, and mom's was from Czechoslovakia.
Yeah,
Wow.
Very cool.
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your mom? Your mother?
But she only went to the 8th grade, but she was very good at writing notes and things like that. She was a very good cook, and she basically was a homebody. She didn't, the only time she worked was during the war, and she worked at B.F. Goodrich. And I think they worked on fuel cells for the airplanes. But once the war was over, she was home. So that's...
Did her duty when she needed to.
Oh,
and
my
then was
mother
home. I
used
love
to
that.
sing in the church. She sang for weddings. Had a very good voice.
That's awesome.
What was your favorite meal that she cooked? You said she was a really good cook.
Probably stuffed cabbage.
Mm.
I still love that. Yeah.
Did
And she
you-
used to make nut roll and poppy seed roll at Christmas time. And she made that was very good too.
I wonder if did she get the recipe? Is the stuffed eggplant or the stuffed
Cabbage.
cabbage? Is that something? Is that I feel like that is that Czechoslovakian or did she get that from her mother? You think?
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it, yeah.
And you said your mom sang in the church. Which church did you belong to?
United Presbyterian, I still belong to that
Oh,
one.
that's wonderful.
The same one I got married in, and I don't hold any grudges. And,
That church is very close to where you lived.
what,
Yes.
honey?
That church was very close to where you guys lived. Which
Yeah,
kinda
it
made
was
natural.
about a block and a half. We used to walk through, there were a lot of lots that weren't built on. And we'd walk through that one, and yeah, it was about a block and a half from my church. Everybody that started in that church was just lived near there.
Where did you live?
I lived on Keenan Avenue in Cuyahoga Falls before I was married. And I lived in the house I'm living in since when we moved to the falls.
After
I've
the
been
short time
in this house 60-some years.
Is the house on Keenan still there?
Yes, my brother and I he came home for a weekend, and we went to all the old places that we we went to Lincoln,
Yes.
and of course it had changed, but we went to a lot of places like that, and we went to our house.
What was the address? Do you remember?
It was 540.
540 Keenan.
And my parents built, it was on the point. They built a house right next door to them, and they moved, I think it was 530. That was after I got married.
Cool. One of the things when you mentioned your church, I imagine, has anyone else belonged to that church as long as you have?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, definitely. There's several of us that just turned 90 last year, and I think they were all from the neighborhood.
That's pretty special.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Known
it
your
is.
whole life. Let's see. What are your memories around wartime? Do you have any memories of?
I remember that they bombed Pearl Harbor, and everybody said, "Where's Pearl Harbor?" We didn't know.
Right.
Yeah, and then my brother-in-law, my sister was married at the time and had a little baby. He worked well, he was in the service, but I think he worked repairing airplanes, so he never had to serve in actual combat.
Mhm.
So that was my brother-in-law. Anything you haven't heard before?
I didn't know that about your brother-in-law.
What?
I didn't know that about your brother-in-law.
Well, of course, that was Rick. That was,
I remember you telling other stories about that time, sort of, the Depression,
yeah.
or, you know.
Well, and I know there was a big building boom, all the houses after the war. So would you say Cuyahoga Falls changed a lot around that time?
Well, I don't remember that I noticed it, but definitely it has changed a lot. My brother and I can remember who used to live across the street from us, because we lived on a point
Mm-hmm.
that I think it was Archdale and Canaan came together. So we had neighbors on both streets, and we can remember some of the names of the people that lived there, especially Clipples used to live across the street, and my brother had a crush on that girl. That was a lot of fun.
Let's see. So I was trying to think of, I'm sure a lot of businesses have opened and closed throughout your lifetime in the Cuyahoga Falls. What is one that you really wish was still open?
Well, it's probably a restaurant. I'm very bad on names of
That's okay.
restaurants.
That's okay. I just didn't know if there's one thing that stood out, like, oh, I miss whatever.
No, I can't remember.
Okay.
There were several restaurants that I used to like to go to, and they closed.
Where in high school did you like to hang out? Did you, with friends, did you go various places?
There were 6 of us, I'd say, were really good friends. And we didn't smoke or try cigarettes, so that would made us not to acceptable to the other people.
Some things never change.
What?
I said some things never change. I think it's still that way a little bit.
Well, cigarettes, I guess,
Yes.
now there's worse things.
Yes.
But there used to be a place on Portage Trail. It was between 2nd and 3rd. And for a while there, it was a place where you could go for dancing, and it didn't last real long. But
Don't remember the name.
yeah, I don't even know what it was called.
Was that? Is that across the street from the church? You know, it's between 2nd and 3rd is the church.
Yeah, it was across
the street.
and not next to that building that is, I think it's connected with the telephone company. But yeah, it was next to that.
That was a thank you. So I know when people come in here, a lot of times they have memories of taking dance classes with Charles Boyd. Did you?
Yes, I did. I took dance lessons from Charles Boyd, and he used to come to the school and teach like ballroom dancing. And lots of times he chose me as somebody that he knew.
Nice.
What kind of dance did you take with him?
My brother and I both took dance lessons. We took tap, and I did take ballet and toe shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I did that for several years. And also, I took piano lessons. I just decided to try and play it lately,
Yes.
which I haven't played for a couple of years, and it's pretty bad, but
Now would be a good time to maybe
Yeah.
mention.
Yeah, we saw in your yearbook with your graduating photo that I believe it's where you say, you know, what your interest is or what you'd like to do after high school. And I think you had listed that you would like to be a concert pianist. at
I'm
that
sure
time.
I had visions of being that because my teacher was very good, and it was a place that I used to go to. I think it was on. It doesn't matter. She even had me do a performance for other people. I don't know if it was a review or what, but she was a very good teacher.
That's wonderful.
Did your parents have a piano in their home?
Oh yes. We still had it when you kids were little.
Very
I
nice.
think it was painted pink at the time.
Is that right?
Do you play?
Learned that a little bit when I was in school.
You played clarinet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were a musical family? Appreciated
Well,
the
The kids both got into the band, like for instance, but when they were in junior high, I don't think they were in a high school band.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are there, going back a little bit back to like your elementary school days, are there any particular games or toys you remember playing with?
I had a lot of dolls. As a matter of fact, there's one picture that we had dolls lined up along the couch. So we used to play croquet. Across the street, the man had built a croquet court.
Yeah.
He had like wood. He had the wood that you could bounce off of the. And we used to go over and say, "Can we play?" And he'd say, "May I?" And then we'd get to play.
I like that. Thank
He
you.
was a nice man, Mr. King.
Mr. King. Let's see. So I believe it was said that you went to Lincoln up until 8th grade,
Yes,
and then from there you went on to the high school.
yes.
What can you tell us about your high school years?
I wasn't one of the most popular kids. I graduated third in my class, which was only 97, but I liked history very much, and I took typing. Turned out I wasn't very good at it, but that's what I got a job doing, of course.
Of course.
You were in a lot of clubs, I noticed, when I went through the yearbooks. You were in
How was it?
Spanish club, you were in something called I want to say the Bodie Club?
Spanish club, I remember that.
Or I think it was called
And
Bodie.
I took Spanish in college when I only went to college for a couple of years. I thought I was going to quit and make a lot of money. Didn't work out that way.
Where did you attend college?
Kent State.
Kent?
Yeah. I used to go down to the junction and get the bus that would take me to the school. And it was a much smaller college, obviously.
Yes.
And they dropped you off right in front of the school.
Let's see, that would have been, what year did you graduate high school?
1950.
50s.
Yeah.
So
So
there probably still were not a lot of females attending at Kent. I would imagine there weren't a
I
ton.
didn't notice that.
Didn't
I know
notice?
there were several of us that were from Cuyahoga
Falls?
Falls. And we used to eat lunch together because obviously we didn't have classes together.
Right.
And we used to just always manage to eat lunch together.
And when you were in college, what were you studying? Did you have a major picked out at the time, or?
No, I don't think I did because I took bookkeeping, and that's what I ended up doing. Which I don't think they call it bookkeeping anymore.
No, probably not. But that's very
what
cool.
I did.
Let's see. Can you think? Are there any particular teachers that you had that stick out in your mind for being maybe really good or maybe really bad?
Yeah, I think I really liked my history teacher very much. And he was a man, obviously, but I can't remember his name. Huh. But I guess that's why I liked history. Because I thought he was a good teacher.
That's great.
I know there's a lot of people that remember their teachers' names, but I don't.
Sometimes I try to think back and I draw a blank, and it's like, oh, how could I ever forget that name? It was so pivotal, but we do.
Yeah.
Did you have any pets growing up?
What?
Any pets?
Oh yeah, my brother and I always had a dog. It seemed like we used to name all the dogs that we got Mitzi. And then something would happen. They'd either get run over by a car, or we lost a lot of those. So then we finally got one. I think I was about in 8th grade. Her name, we decided Mitzi wasn't a very good name. So
Good
we
luck.
named her Lady, and she was still living when I got married. So she hung around.
She hung around a bit. Is there anything, like stories you've heard that might not have come up, like the school age?
Oh, I met my husband.
Well, yeah, I definitely want to get into that.
I can remember you telling a story about the rag man,
I used to be afraid of him.
but most people now don't know what the rag
Yeah,
man
what
was.
is the rag man?
Well, he came down the street and he said, and he had an accent, and he said, rags? And he was collecting rags, I guess, because we also had, and that was a little bit later, we had a guy that came down the street and sold like vegetables, and we used to all go out and buy from him. But
That's cool.
I just was afraid of the rag man, and I don't even know why.
And I can remember you telling
What?
I can remember you telling that during the Depression, when times were hard, that if there was only meat for one in your house.
That's what my sister said.
Oh, okay.
Well, my dad got it. Of course, he was out. He was working like 2 or 3 days a week, and but nobody knew it was a depression. Though I mean, all of us were going to school and doing the same things. We used to buy our clothes off of what they called plain pipe racks. That was, but I know when I graduated, I got 2 or 3 new dresses, which I thought that was really something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
What about memories surrounding the holidays? Maybe Christmas or Easter? Do you remember any traditions maybe your family
I
had?
remember a couple of them. We always left the Christmas tree up, which I still do that, for my birthday. It was so close. You know?
Right.
Like my brother said one year, he said, I didn't realize it was Happy New Year or Happy Birthday. Bing, bing. But my father always, for some reason, he had a special gift for my brother and my mother and I. That was after my sister left. Maybe I don't remember.
Yes.
Before that. He used to have a secret little gift for us all that he kept and brought it out a little bit later, you know.
Oh, sweet. That's very sweet.
Yeah.
And what did your dad
It was
used
a
to call
special, huh?
you? What did your dad used to call you?
Well, what about my dad?
What name did he have for you?
Oh, he called me his little pal.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And that became my nickname, which, of course, most people associate with the dog.
I think it's very sweet. Let's see. How did you meet your? Did you have anything you wanted to ask before that? How did you meet your husband?
Well, we both worked at Quaker Oats, and that was down in Akron.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to have a silver dollar, which he kept, and when he got to where he was running out of money because at the end of the pay period, he would give me, because I was the cashier, I would keep the dollar for him. Then after he'd get paid, he'd buy it back. So we had that sort of.
I have the silver dollar now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Very sweet.
Where'd you go on your first date?
Yeah.
What?
that's a question.
Where'd you and Dad go on your first date?
We went to a bowling alley. We went and played bowling, and then we went to, what's the name of it, Dawn?
Swenson.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really bad at names.
Okay.
Was the bowling alley in Cuyahoga Falls or was it in Akron?
It was in Akron, and that was, I think it was on probably Market Street. And then we used to go, but we did go to Swenson's, and we both had a cheeseburger and a lime phosphate.
Oh.
And you can't get those anymore, I
No.
don't think.
How did he propose to you?
I don't remember. I don't remember that we had any specific time when he
Sure.
said anything. We
And-
just, I guess, sort of
Just decided we're getting
drifted
married.
into
Yes. Yes. And you said you got married at the church that you still
Yes.
belong to. How old were you when you got married?
almost 22. I said I was going to get married at 22, and I was almost. We got married in November, and I was 22 on January. We got married the day after Thanksgiving because my brother was away at college, and I wanted him to be at the wedding, so he was coming home for that weekend. So we got married the day after Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, my husband thought it would always be the day after Thanksgiving. Didn't work out that way.
Would have been easier to remember.
Yeah.
Did you go on a honeymoon?
Yes, we did. We went to Niagara Falls. How original. And we went to visit a couple of his relatives that lived in Pennsylvania who he really liked.
And then you said you moved to Norton for a little bit when you were first married?
Yes,
And what did he do for a living, your husband?
I think he just repaired electric motors.
Okay.
He'd been doing, he did that for a long time, yeah.
And how many children did you have?
4. 3 boys and a girl.
Save
And
the
the
best
girl
for last.
was
Save the best for last. I was going to say, are you the
The
baby?
girl was the last one, and I said, that's
That's it.
enough.
What do you remember about early motherhood?
I don't remember, someone asked me, how did you raise 4 kids? And I said, it was just in the first place, I didn't get all 4 at once,
Right.
obviously. And as they came along, I rocked them all, and I breastfed them. And other than that, I don't remember anything specific.
I know it becomes a blur. It already has for me. Let's see.
What were their names in order of birth?
Their first name was Lawrence, and the next one was named Roger, and then James, and then Dawn. Although we called James Jim, and Lawrence was Larry, but Roger never had a nickname, did he?
Mm-mm.
Well, it was a good name.
Yeah, what? It is
Yeah, I
a
don't
good
know
name.
if you mentioned, what was your husband's name?
Donald.
Donald. Did you name your children after anyone in the family?
Oh, we named Dawn after Don. Well,
Larry.
yeah, the oldest one, Lawrence Glenn, that was the two grandfathers.
Mhm.
Fortunately, it was a good name.
Mhm.
And then Roger, I think he got Donald,
That's his middle name.
and James, yeah, from my husband. And then James, Larry said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a policeman and I'm going to be named James. I don't know why. I thought he was going to change his name. But anyhow, we like that name. But he got his middle name from my grandfather, Andrew. And then his initials were J.A.B. And of course, he lived up to that. And then Dawn's middle name is my sister's, Marie.
That's very nice.
So they all had middle names, at least, that were specific. And I guess I never thought about that. Well, at the time I
Yeah,
did, you know.
yeah. So did you work the whole time? Were you at home when you had your kids were young, or were you working during that time?
I worked off and on
Off and on.
all the time, but there were periods when I didn't
Sure.
work. So,
What did you do when we were little?
What, honey?
What did you do when we were younger? Where did you work?
Oh, you mean when I worked in the cafeteria, because the kids were so I have the days off that the kids had off.
Yes.
So I worked in the school cafeteria. First I worked in the junior high, I think, and then, I don't know if I went to the high school or not. That didn't last too long. I think that about 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Do you remember enjoying maybe what the students enjoyed most?
What?
What did the students enjoy eating most? Do you remember on lunch days?
No, I don't
No?
remember. I remember that I got my ears cleaned out one time and I said, they're making so much noise, because I hadn't really been aware of it, you know.
That's funny.
I thought they were really being loud.
Do you have any TV shows that you remember especially enjoying?
Or radio?
Or
Did you
radio.
Go back to radio.
Yeah.
Whoa. Go back to radio. Well, I remember when television came out, because, as a matter of fact, my grandson called me he FaceTimed me, and he's in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
but he was telling his children, great-grandma remembers when they didn't have television. I'm sure they all said, what?
Yeah.
But I think we were the first ones that had television, and they were 15-minute shows.
Mhm.
Dinah Shore had one, I remember that, but and Kukla, Fran and Ollie, that was a kids show. And specifically, I'm trying to think of, I like old movies and old television shows and sports. That's what I like now. I love sports. My brother played he played baseball, football, basketball. Yeah, he played them all. And it was in track. So I went to a lot of games and learned a lot about sports specifically.
So do you watch all of the big sports on TV, like basketball, football, baseball, or?
I never watched basketball. I watched football and baseball. I got hooked on the Guardians
Yes.
this year. I loved them. They were so good.
Yes.
But you have to realize that a lot of those things weren't on. Like, you used to listen to the baseball
Mhm.
game on the radio because it wasn't on TV.
Or you'd go.
Or you go to the game.
Huh?
And you guys used to go to the games on occasion.
Yeah, we
didn't you?
used to go up on on Sundays. They had double headers, and my mother loved Bob Feller, and I liked a different Bob, but I liked the coach or the catcher, Jim Hagan. He was great. I thought he was good looking. I was at that age, I guess.
Yes. Obviously, most recently with COVID, but prior to that, do you remember any like epidemics or diseases or anything that was?
I remember when I had the mumps. I got up and looked at myself in the mirror, and I couldn't believe it. You know, you're fat, and I remember that we all got quarantined for most illnesses back in those days. The doctor came to your house. And I remember when my doctor gave me my vaccination, he gave it to me right here because he said she's going to be wearing sleeveless dresses when she gets older. So, so I was probably 5 years old at the time. But he was a good doctor, yeah.
Do you remember when they gave out the polio vaccines and people had to go?
What? Oh, yeah. Well, we used to walk up to the school to get the polio vaccine. That was Salk. Yeah. And, but I remember that supposedly I almost died with scarlet fever. And then they said my brother had it, but they wouldn't have known he was sick because he got it from me, but they would. But I guess I was pretty sick. But I don't remember that either, you know. Sorry, I'm not very good at this.
Oh no, that's excellent. You have anything else?
So you said that when you moved to Cuyahoga Falls, you still live in the same house to this day, right?
Yeah.
Where do you live now?
Where do I live now?
Mm-hmm. What street?
Oh, I live on Tudor Street. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
No, it's okay.
And what are some of the businesses? Do you remember any of the businesses just off the top of your head through the years in Cuyahoga Falls? Do you remember?
I remember going to the grocery store, which is now a dance studio, but we went there and used to buy. They had the cookies in a little container. You know, you could open the door and I guess you pull up. But and I used to remember. I used to go to buy bread. It was 2 for $17 or something like that.
Was that grocery store on Hudson Drive
Yeah,
that you're talking about?
yeah,
And is it now the McCardle Studio?
yeah. Well, that was very close to Keenan,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. Used to go there. I used to go down to the drugstore. Yeah, if you had enough money, you bought it for your dad, you could buy cigarettes. I remember going down the street like this and all the money went.
Oh no.
Yeah, my dad had to have his cigarettes.
Do you have a lot of the people we speak with have memories of going down to the river and playing or swimming?
Don't
Do you have any
think
memories
No,
of?
I used to want to go to waterworks and swim, but we didn't go to the river.
There's video of you and your brother climbing around the icicles down there
What?
in the
Mhm.
gorge.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's video of you and your brother climbing around the icicles in the gorge, so you went
Oh,
there
well,
at some point.
when we went down there in the wintertime,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did go down to the river because I remember this guy was a friend of ours. My dad and my brother and I and the guy were down there, and we all sort of struck through the ice. You know,
Yeah.
we got a boot full.
Do you remember the doodlebug accident?
Yeah,
What-
very vividly.
Can you tell us about what you remember of that?
What?
Can you tell us what you remember of that?
It was very close to my house.
Yes.
And I remember my parents went down that night, but I didn't know where they were going.
Mhm.
But we all went down there the next day, you know, kids. And the smell was awful. I suppose the burning flesh and
Mhm.
stuff. And so I went to that ceremony they had that was in honor of that. Well, so I remember not specifically the actual happening, but I remember that
Yeah.
we went down there.
Was the train still there when you went down?
No,
Everything was gone by the time you
Yeah.
got there
yeah, we
the
didn't.
next day?
Yeah, I didn't see any trains.
Do you remember anything about the sesquicentennial celebration? Were you part of any of that?
Well, not anything really good. I think my husband grew a beard, and
There's a picture of my dad with the beard and the little tie thing. the
Yes.
little bow tie.
Yeah.
What?
We have a picture of dad with the beard and the little bow tie, like
Yeah,
the ribbon tie or whatever. Yeah.
No, but it was not. I was a lot of fun. I don't
You were-
remember.
That was 1962, right?
I guess. it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. You were having a baby that year, so you were probably having a baby.
I had a baby a lot of years.
Are there any other family stories that you can think of to maybe prompt? Or any questions you have that here's your opportunity, maybe you haven't asked?
I mean, really nothing like that.
No.
I know that, you guys used to go to the movies.
Oh yeah, we used to go to the Falls Theater when it was. We used to go there on Saturday. There was like a double feature, and then we went on Sunday because they'd changed features.
Mm-hmm.
But we used to go on Saturday, and if you left after the first showing, you got a free candy bar.
Oh.
And well, that was to get rid of the kids, you
Mhm.
know. And I remember my dad saying we used to pay 10 cents for the candy bar, but he thought it was neat that we got a freebie. And that was just to get rid of us.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the movies that you saw there?
What?
Any of the movies that you saw?
Oh, no, I don't remember anything specific. They used to have what they called a cereal, and the guy was always getting killed at the beginning, at the end of the show, and then when he came back the next week, well, no, he wasn't getting killed. He was surviving. They used to have that. We used to go every week because there was no television, you know.
Did you have any favorite actors or actresses?
Yeah, I did. You never heard of him, Tom Drake. He was my favorite, and he played youthful people because he was very young. And of course, I liked a lot of other stars, but I remember so many of them. Good-looking guys. Errol Flynn.
What made you and Dad move
He
back
was
to
handsome.
Cuyahoga Falls?
What?
What made you and Dad move back to Cuyahoga Falls? When you were out in Norton, what made you decide to come back here?
Oh, because I wanted to,
Mhm.
you know, and I was thinking about why my parents moved to the falls. The only thing I remember was there were two bridges coming into the falls at one time. And when we used to drive across into the falls, my parents would go, "Oh, I feel the cool." It was like psychologically they were so glad to get home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was fun.
Very cool.
Where all did you work?
That's a good one.
Where all did you work?
Well, the first job I ever had was at M. O'Neill's in the toy department, but they hired specific people for Christmas, you know. But that was probably not a big deal.
Was that on Front Street? The O'Neills?
No, it was down in Akron.
Oh, in Akron, the big O'Neills.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's all they had.
Yeah.
They didn't have all those places in the falls. Although, do you remember all those? They had about 3 places in that falls that was on Front Street.
Mm-hmm.
The O'Neills, you mean? I know that there was an O'Neill's that kind of moved around
Yeah,
on Front Street.
yeah,
It was north of Portage Trail at one point, and then eventually it was south of Portage Trail, next to the Woolworth, I think.
oh, I worked at car dealers, Con Ford. That was back when they came out with Thunderbird. Oh, I loved that car.
And Con, that was on Front Street, right?
What?
With Con, was that on Front Street?
Yeah, it was down a little farther, but it was on Front Street, yeah. And then I worked at J.C. Penney's.
And where was that? Was that State Road?
I don't think so. I think it was.
I think it was Chapel Hill.
That's the one I used to shop in a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't even remember where it was.
I thought you worked in the office upstairs at Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
At that Penny's.
Well, yeah, that was, yeah. And then where else did I work? I worked at Cellular Systems.
Did you notice you skipped right over Quaker Oats where she met her dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
So did you notice that you skipped right over Quaker Oats when you met Dad?
Right.
Well, I thought I already mentioned
Yeah,
that.
you did. You did.
Yeah, but I was trying to think where all I worked.
Well, and then the credit union with Lawson's, right? You mentioned that to us before we
Yeah.
started recording. So you
Yeah,
were.
Lawson's was a nice place to work. It was a good place. Just a shame.
Mhm. Let's see.
Do you remember any of the other places on State Road that you would shop at? Or do you remember them building that plaza?
Yeah, well.
Was that a big deal back then? That they were.
Yeah, that
putting
was, I used to go to the J.C. Penney's all the time. We also used to bowl in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Northgate.
She used to bowl with us. We took our kids, and it was adult junior league, and it was several different places I
Mhm.
bowled, but that was the only one where we had our kids with us. That was a lot of fun.
That just does sound fun.
I
idea.
I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but
What about family vacations? Did you guys go on family vacations?
what?
Did you go on family vacations?
Yes, we used to go down, my husband, the company was with, had a place on Lake Atwood. Do you know
yes,
where
I
Atwood
do.
is?
I do.
And we used to go there every summer. then Don and I, my husband and I, after the kids all grew up, then we started going on a lot of vacations. Then we went,
We used to
I think
camp.
we hit every one of the states, what?
You guys everywhere but Hawaii.
Well, yeah, we didn't get Hawaii, but we did get to Alaska.
Nice.
Wow.
Never too late for Hawaii.
My husband always said I could go there after he died. But by the time he died, I wasn't in the mood.
Yeah, yes.
I've never asked you this, but I would like to know. What was it like to take 4 kids camping to go to the expo in 1967 in Canada?
What was it like?
What was that logistically a nightmare to take 4 children and camp your way to Expo 67?
Oh, well, yeah, that was. We set up a tent every place we went, and we stopped several places on the way, and we went to Expo 67, and it was pretty bad, but we managed somehow.
When you were driving to all these states and things, especially with the kids, did you play games in the car? Like,
Oh yeah,
To
they
keep
used
them
to
busy?
play with the. They used to see the Beatles.
Kind of Volkswagens.
Oh yes, play with the
Yeah,
Volkswagen.
there was a long time they were around. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they used to. Well, I don't remember any other games that they used to just fight over which seat they were in. Of course,
Probably not me.
probably what?
Probably not me.
I'm gonna turn the tables for a second. What's your favorite childhood memory of your mom?
I think for me it would have to be Christmas time.
Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big Christmas person.
She still is a big Christmas
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
But it was always, there was a tree.
Mhm.
I remember coming down in the morning on Christmas Day, and we didn't wake our parents up, but we could get in our stockings, and we all had a paperback, like Charlie Brown book or something to entertain us, and you could share it because there were 4 of us.
Right.
I can remember that, and just the vast amount of baking that she would do, and it just was a really special time in our house.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And all the junk under the tree.
Yes.
Well, it was 4 kids.
Yeah, I know,
you
yes,
there
And
was
yes.
a
yeah, I
lot
mean,
of-
I don't have a distinct memory of it,
Yes.
but there's pictures, slides that
Yes.
show just this sea of paper all over, and just, it
Yes.
was just, that was,
Yes.
it was just a fun time.
Yeah,
I like
it sure
that.
was.
And the vacations to the lake.
I was
Those
never
are
a
memorable, too.
very good housekeeper, and I'm still not. I keep the house,
Yes.
but I don't.
Yes.
I don't do a lot of dusting or anything. Yeah, but you're right. I used to do a lot of baking.
Mhm.
That was a carryover from my mother too, because she used to make that nut roll and poppy seed roll. Well, my mother died when she was 56, I believe, and I was at the right age to make those rolls and stuff. So I used to make it. There were 4 kinds of candy that we used to make. And this was all at Christmas time. My mom used to make cookies like you wouldn't believe, all over the. I can't think of anything specific like that.
So do you think you got your love of Christmas time from your own mom? Maybe?
Definitely from my mom and my dad. My dad was a big Christmas person too. We used to have things hanging from the corners to the middle, that was just tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, both my parents were big on Christmas.
Do you have a favorite Christmas decoration?
Well, for a while there, we had my father's one that was on his first Christmas tree, but I don't know what happened to it.
Mhm.
It's in my house.
We also
I have it.
What?
I have that ornament.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
We have the pickle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and my brother, my oldest boy has that, but he bought me one that has the tradition on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is about the pickle, but we had some ornaments. We were big on. We used to have the bubble lights,
Mm-hmm.
and we also had at one time Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And I think those lasted for a long time. I don't remember anything specifically. We used to have things hanging all over. Oh, I still have my stocking from when I was 12 years old. It says pal.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
My brother, of course, said Bucky, and my mom and dad probably said Mom and Dad. I don't know. But I still put my stocking out, and the kids know that they've heard this. Just like when Jim was born, and it was the hottest day of the year that year.
Oh, wow.
He's heard about that how many times.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all this
We are
with us.
quite welcome. I enjoyed it myself.
I'm glad. Good walk down memory lane.
Yeah, I did. And I thought of a few things that I hadn't thought of in a long time.
I remember like a year or so ago, I took her for a ride over down, it was down Grove, because you wanted to see the rhododendrons
Oh, yeah.
that were down that street. And we're driving along, and she says, well, these are newer houses. These are new houses. And I'm like, these houses are 40 or 50 years old. But they were just,
Yeah.
she was talking
Well,
about from when she
she
grew
grew
up
up,
over
she remember
there.
them being,
They
yeah.
were, these houses
Yeah.
didn't used to be.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, when we used to walk to school too, because you could walk through so many vacant lots.
Right.
But they're not vacant
No.
Yeah. And actually, you were on off of Hudson Drive. Do you remember them putting the highway in? Was that a big thing when they were
I
putting the
remember
highway in?
what more,
Because they tore a lot of houses down on Hudson Drive.
yeah,
To put the
that's
highway
true,
in.
Yeah. No, I don't remember that as much as when I worked at Lawson's. They were working on the expressway then.
Mm-hmm.
And you could look out the windows and see, and it looked like they're just doing the same thing over and over and over.
So you remember when they were building that Portage Trail Bridge and the Broad Bridge that goes over?
No.
Or not Broad.
Well, yeah,
the
that would have been
Portage
when you were
Trail-
working there, because that's part of the expressway.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, yeah, but I don't remember anything specific, just more and more things being built,
Mhm.
yeah.
Do you remember when they blocked off Front Street and built the pedestrian mall?
What, honey?
Do you remember them building the pedestrian mall on Front Street?
Oh, yeah, I remember that, for a long time, that was,
Uh-huh. Very cool.
Because I know we'd go to Oktoberfest many a year down
Yes.
there.
Yes.
No, you said that too quiet.
Oktoberfest. You and
Oh.
Dad used to go to Oktoberfest, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. We used to go to everything that
Mhm.
was going on, yeah.
Falls always has a lot to do. That's one nice thing about this area. Always seems to be a lot to do. Family friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, now I don't go to anything. I stay home and do jigsaw puzzles, and crossword puzzles, and Sudokus.
Keep the brain working
Yeah,
there.
that's good.
That's good.
What?
So that's good. It keeps the brain working.
Yeah, I don't do it for that reason.
Yeah,
I do
they're
it
just
because
fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just fun though.
And at my sister's funeral, I remember them telling that she used to do jigsaw puzzles. I guess that runs in the family. Well, during the Depression, you could get one for about 25 cents.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents used to do that a lot. We used to have Jake and, Gina and Glenn and Jake and Lena. Those were characters that were on the radio,
Oh.
I guess. And they used to they had some of those.
Actually, I had another question about high school. Did you go to your prom?
Yeah.
Do you remember who you went with?
Yes, I do. His name was Bill Freilich. I don't think he's living anymore, but I guess most people that I graduated with aren't living anymore. But he and I were not involved with each other, but basically it was two people that didn't have anybody to go with,
Decided to go together.
so we went to, that way we were able to go, yeah.
Do you remember your what dress you wore? What color was it, or do you
No,
remember
I don't
anything about it?
No.
I know that it's on the videos that are in my car.
Well, we'll know soon
We'll
enough.
know eventually.
That's right, me at the prom.
Did you guys do anything after the prom? Like, I don't know, I know nowadays people go do something afterwards.
They didn't do things like that. You just went,
Was it at the school?
huh?
Was the prom at the school?
Probably. I don't remember.
Is that the only dance you ever went to, was the prom?
Yeah,
I didn't know if they had other dances.
well, no, we used to go dance with, the girls danced with each other.
Mm-hmm.
The guys were not, in high school they weren't.
No. They mature later.
Yeah.
Well, we do really appreciate your time and all these great memories. I'm sure we could go on and on
Yeah.
asking about all
We can always
kinds
do
of
a part
things.
two if we need to.
Yeah.
I could probably.
But we're at an hour, so that was
Yes,
pretty.
that was good.
Yeah, well, I really enjoyed coming in and,
You want to
I had more than I expected.
Yes, well that's wonderful. And we
Yeah, we copied it. We didn't know if you had the yearbook, so we copied the pictures that we knew you were in. But just as a thank you for coming in, we also gave you a lifetime membership with the Cuyahoga Falls
nice.
Historical Society. So you'll get our little newsletters and hear what's going on with us.
Yeah, well,
So
I
we'll
used to, I think we came for a specific thing that was probably the opening.
Oh.
My son used to sing with this choir, and I used to turn the pages for the pianist. And they brought, a portable piano. And I think we were here for that.
For when this building opened,
Yeah,
Or-
I think, yeah.
I think that was on an Arbor Day.
It's an Arbor Day.
Actually, we're being honored
I
this
used
on
to belong
Arbor
to the
Day, so.
Historic Society down at the Falls, at the library.
Oh,
Yeah, we would go to the meetings
Yeah.
there. I remember
Went
going.
to,
Yeah.
so for several of their meetings. Used to go every month, and then I got out of it.
Well, we still do things. We've been doing a lot of different things this year. We do some programs, and then, in fact, we have a program coming up in February that's with the Progress Through Preservation, which is a group that saves the buildings in Akron. They're doing the Glendale stairs in the cemetery, Glendale
Oh.
Cemetery. They're working with Sarah Dietrich on the Kaiser House in
So
Northampton.
easy to get in that one.
Yeah, that one's going to be at the natatorium. But
We try not to do
Well,
a lot of
that's
crowd
good.
things, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
We're gonna try to
We're-
record it too.
We're the same. Yeah, we've been trying to record things and put them on. In fact, we just did one with Goodyear that we recorded and put online. So yeah, we're still doing some different things.
Well, as my friends told me yesterday, I would go out, after church, I'd go out with used to be 6 of us, now there's 3 of us. well, two people were going to a different church, but still. And I said, I'm going to be interviewed. And they said, well, that's good because there's a lot of things that people don't know. You know? And I said, oh, well, I don't know. And then he mentioned who was in the war. And I said, well, it was Japan and Germany and Italy was who we were against. But they said they probably don't. But some people don't even know that.
Yeah. What would be your one piece of advice for people today or for future generations? Like in the years that you've lived, what would be one piece of advice that you give to people about anything?
My favorite thing is if I live to be 100 and somebody asked me how I think I lived that long, I said, dark chocolate.
So dark chocolate is the secret.
I love it.
Yeah, and then Jerry said, well, they usually, if they live to be 100, they've been drinkers, smokers, and other things.
Yeah.
Or they didn't do anything.
That's so funny. I had that exact conversation with my husband this morning.
Yeah.
He goes, ask, a question along those lines. He goes, because they always either say, I drink this every day or I never touched a drop. Like, it's always one or the other.
I, from my experience, I've been a beer drinker. I really like beer, which some people, I guess, drink it because it's stylish or something. But, we used to have family reunions at our house. This is when I was a kid.
Yes.
And my brother and I had little glasses like this. Well, we were allowed to drink beer, so I said, well, I never felt like I was missing out on anything.
Right,
so
right.
when I grew up, I didn't say, well, I gotta go out and
Right,
get
yeah,
drunk
right.
because,
Took the mystery out of it.
yeah.
What beer was popular back then?
Where my uncle used to live, where he used to work, I should say.
You're looking at me, I don't know where.
I'm trying to think.
Was it one of the Akron breweries?
Yeah,
Was it Burkhart?
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
that was the
I don't know if that was popular, but that was where
That's what you guys.
And what is your favorite beer?
Coors Light.
Coors Light.
Thought I was doomed to stop there. Huh? She threw that out real fast. I was out with my son and my grandson the other day, and he said, well, since you didn't drive, Grandma, and my kids, they call me Grammy, but anyhow, he said, you can have a beer. And I said, yeah, I think I will. So I looked on the menu, and they didn't have Coors Light. They had Michelob Light, which is pretty good. And so then when I went to order, I said, I'll have a Coors Light.
Just have it.
We don't have that.
How many grandchildren do you have?
7, and I have 6 or 5 great grandchildren.
Wow.
I have 7. I used to say 7, but my one son got divorced, and I guess I don't count his children as my great grandchildren. I have 2 that live in Japan. They've been there about a year and a half. I think they're supposed to be there for 5 years. And the other ones live in California, I'm sorry to say. So I FaceTime with them, but
That's good.
I don't get to really see them.
See 'em.
That's just the greats.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the greats. Okay.
What?
That's just the great grandchildren. That
Yeah.
live, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My grandchildren that live in a lot of different places now.
I love that you FaceTime them. To think about it, prior it was radio,
Oh, yeah.
TV, like the technology changed from the time you were born. That's pretty amazing.
She got an
Yes.
iPad for her 90th birthday.
I love that. I
Wow.
love that.
What?
That you got an iPad.
Oh,
for your 90th.
yeah, my kids got me that for my 90th birthday.
That's great.
And what I did on my birthday this year, my daughter helped me. I Zoomed with my brother who lives in Maine,
Awesome.
and so he's
I kind of think that's key. Keeping up with technology, because if you don't, then that's when you start to feel like
Disconnected.
You're disconnected.
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm
Yeah.
left behind
Yeah, I
in
can
a
see
lot
that.
of ways because everybody wants me to use technology
Mhm.
and I don't use it.
Right.
I still write checks,
Yeah.
pay but I do have a couple of them that just I have deducted
Yes.
from my
Auto. Yeah.
charge account.
Sure.
I pay my bills on and but
Yes.
I think you're right, staying up
I
with the
do too.
technology is
'Cause
key to
yeah.
kind of just,
I'm in my mid-40s, and just now, and I never understood. I remember my grandfather being frustrated with. My grandfather was a chemist, so he was a smart man, but he
Yeah.
would start to get frustrated with some of that, and I couldn't understand it. But I'm starting to get it. Like I'm like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
quite get, or the new social media. I'm like, I don't quite understand how that works. Like,
yeah,
and I see it.
When
It's-
my son and I play, we do the Friday and Saturday crosswords
Mhm.
because that's when they get more difficult.
Yep.
And I know a lot of the things that he doesn't know, but he knows a lot that I don't even understand.
Mhm.
So he'll tell me that's OTV. Oh, okay. Or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes,
I won't
thank
keep
you.
you anymore, but thank you.